Started. Thank you.
Isn't Quint here? He didn't have the
Quint's
letter.
here and
though.
James is here.
Okay.
You're the
Well,
chair, so go ahead.
okay, so I'm gonna, Quint, are you there? Can you hear us?
I am.
Okay, well, they've asked me to read this letter in, and then you're the chief boss, so
No, we
Go
switched.
for it.
you switch it?
Yeah.
Didn't I get the vote? I didn't get the vote. Okay.
We did while you were here, so that's why you elected.
That's how these things go.
Okay, well, welcome to Design Review. We have a statement we'd like to read that's put out by the city. It says, due to Utah County's high level of coronavirus cases as determined by the state's COVID-19 transmission index, I have determined that conducting meetings with an anchor location present represents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present there. Therefore, for the next 30 days, all meetings of the Design Review Committee will be conducted via electronic means. So with that, do we need to introduce everybody that's here? Or do we know
I
everybody?
think we could just
Should we just
we
start?
can just jump in and
All right.
introduce as we go.
Do you want to go ahead and read this in? there?
Sure. Yeah. So we just have one item on the agenda today. That item is David Cabanilla requests design review approval for architectural changes on the mixed-use building containing 4,300 square foot of office space and 24 residential units. This is located at 980 West Center Street in the West Gateway zone. Let me just kind of give an overview, and then I can turn it over to Kevin or Dave.
Dave probably wants to address this thing.
So let me just give an overview of what we're looking at here. So the property here is on the corner. This old gas station has been demoed. And the reason that we're back here today is we have an approved architectural set. And we can go through this more in detail as we go. But there's been proposed changes with that, with architectural set. So I'll just kind of give a brief overview of what we had approved was a brick veneer facade with some metal paneling here, stucco where the balconies are here, and then brick along the bottom. We had these brick raised planters screening on both elevations on the west and on the south. The changes being proposed are taking off the brick veneer. So it's all stucco, just different colors of stucco on the upper floors. The bottom floor here is a concrete wall on both sides, except for where the glass is here. The glass. They've reduced the wall down to just planter beds here. So those are the changes. Kevin or David, if you want to go ahead and expound on anything that I've brought forward. Now would be the time to do that.
Can you hear me?
How about it, Dave?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, David.
Yeah, we have been doing, this is of course a reminder to staff. This is our real estate headquarters going in the floor. And we are just about ready to be through the building permit process. We're getting a lot of our costs coming in the building. The building we're at, we've designed. We've put a lot of money into things that may or may not really show. And so our costs were really going quite nuts on us on this building. So we were looking at what things could we do that it did not substantially change any art. We didn't change any architecture. We didn't do anything with floor plans, we didn't do anything off balconies or anything of that nature. Different choices to try and bring budgets more in line, with what we need. And I guess the best way to visualizing what's even on a board, or if everyone in the committee has seen the building on 200 West and 500 North, the big 7-story, this is what our first floor paneling that we've gone to an architectural panel versus a block. And so our first floor will mimic their first floor with the architectural designed panels. So we went with that look on the first floor versus the block. We pulled off the block and metal because the cost of this metal is gone along with our brick. So we just we really just needed to bring some costs down on this without sacrificing anything else. So we picked some of the obvious things and went with colors and things of that nature, and different choices, of course, in the block to help our overall cost structure. And so that's what's brought us to this at this point. So we're still committed to build it, but we're a little slow on the on getting it going, primarily because we own it. There's no one to flip this to. We're staying in it, and so we've got to be very mindful of the costs and make sure this thing pencils for us. And it's everybody's aware of all the escalating costs and issues that go along with it right now, and it's pretty crazy, actually. So anyway, that's where we're at, and that's why we're back in design review. And, we just wanted to make these slight modifications, and we're happy with what we think is left of, what we've come up with. And Kevin can maybe address some of those things.
Was everybody on the committee able to hear that?
Yeah, I heard all that.
All right.
Yes, and as Carol, I just want to be sure you saw that I joined.
Yep.
Okay.
Was there a Kevin that wanted to add to that?
Oh, yeah, this is Kevin, and I'm the architect, and I'm on board with Dave. I think it's more a matter of different choices as opposed to choices that diminish quality or overall look, because as Dave mentioned, the architecture is exactly the same. It's just colors and materials.
Yeah. Okay. Aaron,
Do we
did
have
you
any-
say that we're not that there was a change? So the chair is a new person, is that right?
Yes. Yeah, we, the last DRC, there was a re-election. There's a new election of chairs. I was in attendance.
I wasn't either.
I wasn't either.
It was a coup.
Yeah. And Bill doesn't remember, so
I wasn't either, so I guess it was a good vote.
yeah.
Well, at that last one, I was elected the new chair. So I like the promotion.
Good job. Way to go.
No, do you recall what happened on that? I remember seeing that on an agenda.
I think it was last year's agenda. We had it the year before last. We didn't have it this year. We didn't have it for 2021.
I'm just confused.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I can put on the next agenda.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead, Glenn.
So I was just going to ask if there's anything else that we need to hear, or if we want to have a discussion as a committee. So I guess we'll just dive into the. I guess we need to see if there's public comment. Is that right, Nah?
Yes, if you can change it to public comment. Okay, there's no one at the moment, so 30 seconds.
So while we're waiting for that, do we have any input from the neighborhood chair at all on this?
There's no neighborhood chair here.
Nothing.
And while we wait a couple more seconds, Aaron and Nah, so just to clarify what we just discussed about the chair position, what you're saying is that the term is up, and so maybe at the next meeting we will have an election on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
No public comments.
Cool. Okay. I'll start with some comments. They say when you're in a position of authority, you want to speak with confidence so you don't get taken advantage of. But I'll say, I like this project, and I'm a little bit sad to see these changes, primarily just because it does begin to look like a cheaper project, which obviously is the goal to save costs. And the only reason I'm sensitive to that is because this is the gateway. This is the entrance. This is one of the first things you see when you enter Provo off of the freeway. Now, that does not give me any more, legal precedent to require that this is a nicer structure. So I am not saying that we should require that it's a nicer structure and has higher quality materials, but stucco just looks cheaper because it is. So it's a shame to see these changes. I think it's still a good project, and it's a massive improvement on the garbage that was there before. I guess I'm not really asking for any big changes, but those are my feelings. Other committee members?
It's Carol. I agree. I mean, I think you're right, and I understand where they're coming from as far as costs go. But it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So could you go through one more time and maybe Kevin, you could, where the changes were on the brick and the metal on the building?
Yeah. I realize they can't see me.
I can help.
Okay, so yeah, just go ahead and show them. This is brick. This was brick right there. It was mainly just the vertical elements right there, like that. Yeah. And then there was some metal elements on that, and then up at the very, very top of the roof right there.
So I guess the question is, and I understand the cost also, but is there a way to still incorporate some of that without completely gutting it? Because I agree, a total stucco building is not the most attractive, even when you color it up. But have they considered looking at maybe incorporating some of those elements, because it is the gateway coming into Provo?
Yeah, you know what? This is honestly one of those situations where the cost impact has been so extreme that it's literally a matter of being able to build the project or not build the project. I think it's the escalation price from 2 years ago is unbelievable. And I mean, and everybody knows that. It's in the news all over the place and stuff. So really, honestly, we have looked at every different mix of things, and Dave has spent months and months and months and months pricing this with the contractor. Mm-hmm. And I'm not exaggerating. They've been at it for 5 months trying to get the price down. So to say that there's more room in there, I would just say, Dave, do you think there's some room in there for increasing price?
Here's a couple things I'd like to remind the committee of. There's nobody more committed to Provo than the Cabanilla family and my partner. Can everybody hear me?
Can you speak closer to your microphone, maybe?
Forward to the computer. We totally recognize we're the first thing you see coming into Provo, which is why we did not pull back things like balconies that are actually usable balconies, not faux balconies. We have huge balconies that are also metal. So when this thing goes up, there is detail that you don't see in 3D that are different colors that this, that will show on this, that'll bring out the details of the architecture. So we could certainly go back and kind of, spend some money and redesign, strip all the balconies off, give you a little brick here and there, and it'll end up like every other apartment building. It's a big box that uses fake balconies and throws a little bit of brick here and there. And we, quite honestly, some of the design things we've done, that Kevin's done, the balconies have storage on them. This structure is highly complex. And no, we are not necessarily happy that it's all stucco, but the rest of what we're bringing on this project is, I don't see anybody else volunteering to do this in this gateway. And, we're committed to this, to this look. That's why some of the things we've picked, we think really still do look great, as you come into town. And so we have not wanted to pull anything back from any architectural details. other than things we could just plug and play and still give us a great project. So I don't want to see immovable, but we're immovable. This is it.
Yeah. James, did you hear my comments earlier?
I did. Yeah, and I agree with him, Quinn, that someone earlier mentioned I think it's Highline Square over kind of by the rec center as kind of a precedent for this. It does have more varied material on it. I was just checking. And I think the architectural detailing is pretty crisp on that project. It's got more like fixtures and a little less flat surface. This project actually has really stuck with me since we last talked about it. And the horizontal bands are like haunting me. And I think it's even more problematic now that it's all going to be the same material. Where before you had some material diversity, but those white bands that separate each floor, I think like really make the building feel chaotic to me, that you don't have any large material surfaces. So I get that like the budget doesn't allow material diversity, but from a design perspective, I would still like, and maybe even more strongly than last time, say that I'm not a big fan of the white bands that occur between the second, the third, and the fourth levels of this project. I think it's fine on the lower level to break and be a transition between the concrete level and the rest of the building. But for me, the horizontal bands are really problematic. I think the justification last time was you didn't want it to feel tall, but it's going to feel tall regardless, especially with kind of the spire pieces that are happening where the balconies are. And I like the verticality of it personally, but the horizontal bands are still like just not something I'm loving. And I think as it all becomes stucco, it's going to even feel like more arbitrary than it did before.
I can't see anything on my computer. I don't know what I clicked, but all I could see is everybody in the committee. Does anyone on there know which button I need to push to get the screen back?
You just have the one screen.
No, all I'm looking at now is a screen showing everyone who's in the.
Right. You can usually grab that black box with everybody's images and drag and move it so you can see what's behind it, or you can minimize it with the top left button.
There's also a button in the top right that says view, and that's the arrangement of what you're looking at.
I don't know why it just all of a sudden showed up, but okay, I can see it now.
Yeah, James, I like those comments in regards to. I don't think we're in a position where we can require that you spend more money on your project, and we understand this is much better than what was currently there, and we're glad to have it because I think it is a good project. But I do wonder now that there's not a diversity in material types, if there's a little bit more of a creative solution that could eliminate some of those horizontal lines. They're so apparent. But I'm not an architect. Kevin, I'd be curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and as I respectfully listened to what James had to say, I think there is a matter of personal preference there, and which is totally okay. In my mind, I actually really, really do like the look of it, and I do think it helps scale it. And I do previously, believe and still do that if I eliminated them, then I would have a building which felt much more vertical than it does right now, and it would lose some of that residential quality that it had. Those bands are actually expressed. They're not just flat. They're expressed 2 inches. So, while I understand what James is saying, architecturally and aesthetically, in my own personal aesthetic, I disagree.
So,
Yeah, I can share. So I actually showed screenshots of this with a couple of architecture school colleagues, and they said that it looked like you scaled the Revit floors out a couple inches accidentally, so that it was like a messed up BIM model. And that's kind of the way I'm seeing it too, that like these floor plates just got like accidentally oversized. So, and actually maybe my thoughts on removing them are another cost-cutting opportunity. If it is expressed 2 inches out, you have a chance to just flatten the surface. And I don't think this reads as residential in the traditional residential sense. I think this reads as like a more dense urban project, which I think is appropriate for this part of town.
Okay, and you know what? I respectfully just disagree with you. This was done intentionally, and so this really is a matter, in my mind, of a personal opinion. And so, you know, I wouldn't have done it this way if I didn't think it was the right way to go.
Sure.
Can I butt in just for a second? One of the things that, guys, I remember if you're looking at this now is our detail on the exterior and pop outs and roof lines and corner pieces and the deck, that is all dollars. Highline, and I love Highline Square, by the way. It's I've been in it, I've toured it. They did a great job. Take off the panels and it's a box. They have balconies that pop out. They did not spend, a lot of complexes do not spend the money on their roof lines to do these types of details that we're doing, especially in a smaller project. We don't have the ability of the economies of scale either to, we have an elevator. Of course, you can't see that, but we have an elevator for 23 units. They just made us put a bathroom in a small clubhouse with 23 units. I mean, there's some things that when you build these smaller infills that are just going against you left and right. And we purposely added these balconies and added these pop outs because we wanted to, the smart thing to do is just yank them all off and come back to you with the flat building and throw a few panels on there, and I bet it'd still get approved. So, but that's not in our head, guys. So I apologize if some of these things bug you.
Yeah, David, I should clarify. I like the roof line. I like the vertical fins that are coming out to provide storage in the balcony. I think that's a really great solution. It's only this horizontal band that separates each floor.
Was it different color? Would that change, or just the band? You just don't like the horizontal?
I personally don't like the horizontal. I think it's kind of contradictory to the building type. And to me, once again, as was mentioned earlier, it's my personal opinion. I don't think that it works nicely with the building. And I would rather the vertical emphasis of those fins really be able to sing rather than trying to break them up with this horizontal element that is cutting between the floors.
Like to design my building for me?
It's interesting how we all look differently with that, and a lot of things will get under my skin on some things that nobody else sees. This Kevin will tell you, but this isn't one of them. Because I think when the thing is really up in the 3D ability and all the decks and balconies are on and the real details able to see what's there, this isn't going to be a big issue. But I appreciate your comments, and you guys have all been very supportive of this project, and we're still committed to the gateway, and we want to get these things up, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the next step is a motion. I don't know if we have, I don't know. I mean, this is a question for James, kind of. I don't know if we have any requirements for them to make any changes and come back. I don't know if we want to just approve as is, or if we want to approve with recommendations. Aaron, is there anything you'd add? Any suggestions? Anything I'm missing?
No, those are all options available to the committee. So it's just whatever the committee decides for their motion.
Okay.
Yeah, if I stand alone, in my opinion, I'm totally comfortable with that and happy to have expressed it here and let it be known. But if the rest of the committee is fine, then yeah, I'm definitely able to get on board.
Yeah, I can see it, but it doesn't irritate me enough to make any required changes. But sure. Okay, does that would I mean, I can make a motion. I would just make a motion to approve the project.
I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Aaron.
That's it. Thanks everybody for coming out.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. We're glad for this project to happen.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to all of you.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks. See ya.
Yeah.